We go. Salute to the NBA Nation, man. On this Monday afternoon, the Heat have made it a series. That's what they say, man. The Heat come back, smack fire out of these Denver Nuggets to start the game off and closed the show with a resilient effort, man. 111-108, tying the series and sending this thing back to South Beach for the Denver Nuggets to think about and do some soul searching, man. So we're going to talk about it today. Lock in, hit that thumbs up button for your boys. CP the Franchise here. Alex Rataros on the other side. And special guest, the legend himself, the rhyme animal, Chuck D in the building, man. So salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. On our way to 500 subscribers right here on the NBA Report. And salute to you guys that are watching on KnicksFanTV as well. We are doing a simulcast. And so for you guys on KnicksFanTV, go ahead and come over to the NBA Report. That is at the NBA Report on YouTube. And let's get it going, man. All right, man. 111-108. And this was such an interesting game for me, guys, because there were so many ebbs and flows to this thing. Miami starts the game off. They come out hot. They come out cooking. There's some of the guys who were not so involved in game one and not so effective in game one bounce back in game two, namely Max Strus came out hot. I thought defensively, Miami's effort from beginning to end, outside of that stretch in the second quarter where Denver made their run, I thought Miami's defense was solid. Offensively, as I said, they got several contributions from their role players. Max Strus started off. Duncan Robinson, to me, his stretch in the fourth quarter was a turning point in the game. I'll get to that. You know, Jimmy Butler chipped in where he needed to. I thought Bam Adebayo was phenomenal again for game two. And on the Denver side, you know, despite Nikola Jokic's brilliance, his 41-point outing, they really didn't get much from their supporting cast. Jamal Murray, a quiet 18 and 10. You know, he had 10 points all the way up until about the final 5 minutes of the fourth. They did make their run to try to get back into this thing, but this was the Jokic show, 41 points and 11 assists. But overall, I thought the key theme for this game was Denver's lack of attention to detail on the defensive end, their lack of connectivity, boneheaded plays, and I thought they just did not set a good tone to start the game off and also entering the fourth quarter. And so Murray did get a chance to tie this one, but it was all for naught, man. Heat, 111-108. Chuck, what you think about this game, man?
They look like the team that the Knicks beat twice, to me. I mean, a tendency to go to sleep. It looks like a team that, you know, when you take Joker and isolate him into doing his thing, they end up outside of Murray. They end up looking like a bunch of players that came from other teams. Michael Porter Jr. becomes a 6'10" perimeter player. You know, all of a sudden, cats like the dude Green, who always looked like Scottie Pippen on us. You know, he looks his age. So, Miami, they scratch your eyes out.
Yeah.
And it's not just Spo. Every time the camera turns to Spo, he's smiling, no matter what. It's almost, you get the sense that Mike Malone got to scream at his team for 48 minutes every second. And Miami seems to not only have Spo smiling, but you got, when the players turn around and look and they say, oh, it's just the 8 undrafted players, you know, they turn around looking, there's Haslam giving you that look. Mm-hmm. There's Zoe and Riley, the culture of Riley, or I should say the wizard of Rileyhood is over there looking. It's just so much accountability to the culture to keep them awake for 48 minutes. They're the version of what our team, the Knicks, want to be if we're going to keep the same array of lineup. They play like we want to play at our best at 48 minutes. And we beat both teams twice playing at our best. So talking about those teams, yeah, Nuggets look like the team the Knicks beat twice.
Al, what were your takes, man?
You know, it just goes back to show, and I think Chuck hit it on the head, where you watch Miami's grit, you go back to Spo, and we talked about this with both Matt Brooks and Brady Hawk, CP, where the depth for Miami is really coming into play, right? You see how Spoelstra is able to go 10 deep. You see how for Denver they decided to go 8 instead of 7. But I think when you can just rely on 10 guys, even for spot minutes here and there, even like a Cody Zeller who's giving you like 6 to 8 minutes, it makes a big difference. And you're starting to see this where Miami can just walk in, play their gritty defense, and they're doing the same thing that Denver wants to do, which is ball movement, getting everyone involved, getting them confident, good look shots. I mean, one in the third quarter that really impressed me was you have Jimmy Butler bringing up the ball going right side. He then passes it to Max Strus, who's curling around a Bam Adebayo screen and quickly finds Bam rolling on a good bounce pass to get an easy layup. And it's stuff like that where when you can get everyone involved on your offense, playing confidently, being a playmaker, it's tough to stop. And that's what Denver likes to rely on as well.
Yeah.
But if you're going to force Jokic to just be that guy and not get his passing off, which is really what makes this offense go for Denver, it's going to be a tough time for Denver to really create those, big leads or just control the game because, as you noted, CP, the role players didn't get involved. And that's because these are not Murray. This is not Jokic. These are not guys who can operate in isolation. So if you're going to stop Jokic and Murray from being playmakers at critical points of the game, it will be difficult for Denver to pull out these games. Now, they lose 111 to 108, so they could potentially just be able to do this. You can ask Jokic to get 41, but if you're going to go this direction, then you're going to need Murray to really step up all parts of the game as well. And you see how they like to interchange them in and out. Like you'll have Murray with KCP, Aaron Gordon, Brown and Brown, right? Or you'll have Jokic with KCP, Green, Brown, and Brown. Like they like to interchange these guys. And so when Murray's out there, it's not the same as Jokic at times. Murray's going to have to be that guy that can just go off like we saw against the Lakers if they're going to have a chance, if they want to have a chance, I should say, to win this series.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, look, you talked about Spoelstra. The thing that makes him so great is, I think it's actually funny because, people say things that makes him so great is not being afraid to tinker with the lineups, right? Here you have Kevin Love, who didn't play for 3 games. Now he's starting, and in his starting minutes was a plus 18 on the night, 6 points, 10 rebounds, starts the game off, launches a bullet pass ahead of the court. It didn't translate into anything, but that's what Kevin Love's out there to do. He's there to help you get the cheap points, play his veteran role. He's a champion. He can get on the boards. He can pass. He provides some size. And then he was guarding Aaron Gordon, so he was effective. And then you have the flip of the coin where you have a Duncan Robinson who was buried for the better part of a year on this team. He's now emerging as a key piece. So it's funny how we give Spoelstra credit in that regard. And then then you have the Duncan Robinson situation. But I digress because what I wanted to say was that, Spoelstra making that adjustment, I thought that helped Miami's defense because in game 1, their lack of size certainly showed. And so having Love out there to guard Aaron Gordon to kind of slow down some of the advantages that Denver had using their size. I thought that was a good adjustment by Coach Spoelstra. But then, as was noted on the telecast, now you move Jimmy Butler onto Jamal Murray, who I thought gave a better effort, gave better defensive intensity by guarding Murray, being tougher, being physical. And so that's an adjustment that Denver's going to have to make if Miami continues with that lineup. And then additionally, to close the game, that Miami zone was really solid. They were really good. And not just because what they were doing was they were taking the ball out of Murray's hands. They were blitzing him on the pick and roll, so making him very uncomfortable. And then also I thought the key adjustment there with their zone was that they were fronting the Joker, who was trying to play the middle of that zone. And so that was the wrinkle. In game 1, he had that middle wide open. In game 2, they had even their smaller guards. You had Gabe Vincent fronting and making it hard for him. Jimmy Butler, the Heat just had different guys trying to play that middle just to make it a little bit uncomfortable for them to operate. That was one of the key words that I was listening to Scalabrine and Isola, and they have Josh Longstaff, longtime NBA assistant coach. He's with the Thunder now, was with the Knicks. And that's what he said, is that with the zone, it's not like these guys haven't seen it before in their basketball careers, but it's just a different look that makes you think a little bit more. And you got 24 seconds to get the job done. So things change when they're in there and they're playing intense, and it seems like guys are just coming from all over the court. So I thought that was a good wrinkle for Miami, and Denver wasn't able to solve that puzzle, man, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They were very confusing. It was very confusing to them. Go ahead, Alex.
I hate that I'm looking at this, and I know we covered the Knicks for all 82 games, and I'm looking at both these teams. I'm like, adjustments on top of adjustments, trusting in players. And you start to see the importance of being able to have this flexibility between going from man to zone, having the flexibility of relying on anybody. I mean, you get Duncan Robinson to get 10 points. He goes 4 for 5 in the fourth quarter. Yeah. That's who you're relying on to help win this game, right? And you start to see your star player, in Jimmy Butler, even though he had over 20 points, I think he had 23. You look at him and it's like, it's not necessarily the offense, even though he hit critical shots at the right time, but it's his defense, as you noted, CP, on Jamal Murray. That's a two-way player, and you're starting to see that. How does your star player impact the game in more than just one way? Okay, right. Is it playmaking? Is it defense? Is it the timely shot making? This is where, like, when we talk about the series, I'm like, I have no idea what way this can go, because we can't keep knocking Miami at this point, right? It's like even when we had Matt on, he's like, oh, maybe a sweep. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like at this point, I can't doubt Miami like that, because they come back every single time and say, okay, you think size is going to bother us? No problem. You think your offense is going to bother us? No problem. We'll step up the defensive intensity. Every single way. They just find another way to come back and achieve their goal. So it's going to be an interesting series. I like it. I'm curious to see how Denver bounces back, because this is going to be a true chess match. And I want to see what adjustments Mike Malone makes for his team in Game 3.
Yeah, these guys just aren't going to lay down, man. And, the thing about Miami, they're a resilient group, man. They are a resilient group, from losing the first play-in game to being on the ropes in the second play-in game. They were losing in the fourth quarter to the Chicago Bulls. If it wasn't for Max Strus, they might not even be at this point. They coast past the Bucks. They've made it fairly easy against the Knicks. And then against Boston, they go up 3-0. They go down 3 straight with a back-breaking buzzer beater by Derek White, and still have the resolve, the resiliency to go on the road and smack fire at the Celtics in Game 7. So now here it is. Now they make this big run in the first quarter. Second quarter, they get smacked back. Denver led by their defense. Both Browns, Christian Brown, Bruce Brown leading the way. Jamal Murray cooking. They were hitting. Everybody was hitting threes, from Aaron Gordon to Jeff Green. I mean, I thought that point, this was going to be the eventual knockout blow, where the Nuggets were just going to be wavering between 15, 20-point lead throughout the rest of the night. But when I saw that this game went into halftime as a 6-point Denver lead, I said, oh, boy. I said, despite everything that you saw in that second quarter, that big turnaround by the Nuggets, they only won that second quarter by 9 points. The Heat were down by 6. I said, now we have ourselves a ball game, man. That's the resolve of Miami, man. You can't count them out, Chuck.
They play every second. Every second they play. And what Alex said, when the rotation gets shortened, it gets, tossed down to the 10 and 9 and 7 and 8 players, your players better turn into two-way players. Every single one of them are coming in. You don't think Duncan Robinson heard in the inner ear or maybe the outer advice, like, look, man, they're giving you the lane. Take it to the hoop. His baskets, basically his back-breaking baskets is going to the hoop.
Yeah.
Now we go into, remember this, Miami hasn't been home in 3 games.
Right.
And they've won 2 of them.
Right.
Now they go to Miami.
To Miami.
We talk and everybody says the culture word and all that, but the culture means that everybody's on board. That's the scary thing. And I think I had a conversation, us Knicks fans beat up on each other more than we beat up on anybody else. So people were like, oh man, I can't believe you're going for the Heat. I said, listen, I'm an OG that understands. I looked at this team when they were the Denver Rockets with Spencer Haywood in the ABA. Then I followed them in the ABA, and they were a Nets adversary. But ever since the Nuggets have come in the NBA, they've been whipping the Knicks' tail ever since the merger. So I have no sympathy for the Nuggets whatsoever. Matter of fact, I don't like them more than the Heat because there hasn't been a time I remember until this year when we beat the Nuggets twice. I don't even remember, man. And like I said, I've been watching them since the merger, man. Every time we would go into Denver, we would lose. I'm talking across 50 years, damn near. So, yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, okay, it's a little bittersweet. But one thing I get out of the Heat is the fact that we mirror them a little bit. We got something to learn from them if we keep the same type of culture in our growth. If we can eliminate some of the ISO, no big pun intended, hero ball that we sometimes lead into. You know, a matter of fact, I think, Spoelstra is so cold cut, he might not play Tyler Hero at all if they get a flow on game 3. He might not, he just like say, I might not even put you in at all because I'm not going to mess with this chemistry. Or he'll bring them in at an unsuspected time to do one particular thing. So, I mean, expect the unexpected with Spoelstra because every time the cameras pan to him, he's got this sinister smile.
Yeah.
You never see him like kind of upset,
flustered.
really. And meanwhile, on the other side, Mike Malone is a little Tibbs. He's screaming every second, man. So
every time out, he's tight, man. He's tight at something every time out. He grabs a clipboard. He's always flustered every time out. Spoelstra, he's just cool, man. He keeps the same grin for during the game, the post game. Really doesn't matter, man. And as we look at this box score, you mentioned the absence of Hero. Well, wasn't really missing tonight, man. Last night, as a matter of fact. Gabe Vincent, I thought, was outstanding once again. 23 points, 8 of 12 from the field, 4 of 6 from downtown for Vincent. I thought he did a good job, Al, as a shot creator as well. We talked about Max Strus to open up the show. He bounced back 14 points, 4 of 10 from downtown. And as he said during the in-game interview, he said, look, shooters shoot. I'm not going to be afraid to let it fly. He shot 10 threes. All of his attempts were threes last night, and but chipped in with 6 dimes. Never bailed, even when Murray got that dunk in the fast break on the second quarter. That was Max Strus still made a play on the ball, and so I think that was an indicator that the Heat, they were going to go down swinging in game 2, and you have to. You always expect the loser of game 1 to come back with aggression in game 2 and play with that sense of desperation, especially a well-coached Miami Heat team. But to me, the turning point of this game, after all the ebbs and flows, in the fourth quarter, Denver was up by 8 points going into third. He had a brilliant third quarter by Nikola Jokic, 18 points. He was cooking everybody from all 3 levels. Cody Zeller was absolute food. They go into the fourth quarter with an 8-point lead. Here comes Duncan Robinson. He hits a 3. You have Jeff Green gets to the foul line for 2. Hits 2. Here goes Duncan Robinson again. Makes a drive and layup and the foul. Misses the free throw. So they cut the lead down to 5. Next possession, after Jeff Green loose ball foul, Duncan Robinson hits a 3, I believe, on Jeff Green. Now they're down by 2. Nuggets called timeout. Next possession, you have 2 guys chasing Duncan Robinson now. Now he's Kobe Bryant. You got 2 guys chasing him, leaving the hottest shooter on the team right now in Gabe Vincent wide open for 3. And before you know it, an 8-point Denver lead turns into a 2-point Miami lead in a span of 2.5 minutes. That, to me, was a turning point of the game. The Heat really did not look back from that point, and it was Duncan Robinson who was the killer. All 10 of his points came within that short stretch in the fourth quarter, and they really never looked back. And in game 1, we're saying, well, Jimmy's got to assert himself. Jimmy's got to be that guy. But Jimmy, he came in with timely buckets because he got 6 points late in that game when the game was a 3-point game. And so, that's just how impressive this Heat team is that you got it from different guys. And thus far, Jimmy Butler can kind of just, be who he is. And the supporting cast has been picked it up.
New things I haven't seen in a long time. Like, for example, when Gabe Vincent was left. I mean, he could have been cooking on JD's barbecue grill out there. He had as much time. That happened to Duncan Robinson twice. I'm like,
Yeah.
they get so confusing and complex in their offensive schemes that poof, whoop, whoop, they whip the ball around, and then all of a sudden there's a person sitting out there who basically could chill, put some lotion on, and then fire. And I'm like, I haven't seen that. And I haven't seen that in a long time, if ever. And another thing I haven't seen this playoffs, and it showed its head again last night, and it was mentioned, Kevin Love's outlet. The outlet he threw the Bam that got a three, what? Or was it a passage foul or whatever?
Oh, the clear pass.
Yo, man, that doesn't happen without Kevin Love's outlet pass, and now all of a sudden it becomes a wide receiver play. A flag on the play.
Yeah.
He's done that. He broke out back with two of them. So these things don't show up in the stats at all. And Miami has come up with some new school yet old school schemes that break the backs out of teams that don't pay attention to detail.
Hit the nail on the head there. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, and I mean, look down at the fourth quarter, right, of this game. You want to talk about getting down to the detail. Both teams took the same amount of shot attempts. Both had 16 field goal attempts. But the difference when it comes down to the detail is who's getting to the free throw line. And you watch, even though it wasn't Jimmy Butler, he got one free throw. It was Bam, who's not afraid of contact, Gabe Vincent, who wasn't afraid of contact, and Kyle Lowry, who knows how to draw contact, right? That right there, you had 10 free throw attempts compared to the Nuggets 4, right? And if you're not going to have anyone like Michael Porter Jr., if you're not going to have KCP, Bruce Brown, guys who are going to drive in and try to draw the contact, and you're going to have to rely on just Jokic, right? That's going to be a difference maker where you have to be aggressive in the fourth quarter. You have to try to draw those fouls, put these guys either in foul trouble or just try to get to the line just to slow down the game. And I think when you look at Miami, that's something that they've done throughout every single series. They just know that they have to drive in the fourth quarter. It's not because you see that. We see that from players from time to time where it's like, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to settle for a jumper. And at that time, no, you shouldn't be settling for a jumper. Your opponent is tired too. Try driving, get these guys off balance where they have to force to either like try to swipe down something, make a late rotation, go get to the line. That's devil's in the detail. And Miami certainly knows how to do it, man.
Alex, do you get the sense that like Miami, they love the others, as they say in the ranks of analysis, the others love their roles, and Denver seems to settle for their roles. That's so different. Spoelstra seems to like have a scheme for the role players, and Mike Malone says, listen, you guys got to have a role around our main two heavies and settle for it. And this is how you're going to get your shine. That's the outside looking in feeling I get.
I feel like that's true for all but one player. I'm going to say that's Michael Porter Jr. because I think he's the guy that feels like he could do a lot more. And there's times, even when we saw in previous seasons, and I was covering the Nuggets a little bit for Hoops Habit when I was writing for them, there are times where he thinks he's the guy and he wants to be the guy. I think he's settled in this role, but I think if there's anyone who's maybe a little unhappy with their role, it'd be him. But I think Gordon has accepted their role. I just think Miami does it to a T, where it's like Gabe Vincent's not, I don't think he's expected to be this guy. He's worked really hard to get to where he is. I think that's a difference where you have guys who've been so talented, who've been in these roles. Like Aaron Gordon comes from a situation from Orlando where he was the guy. I think he's understood that I'm not the guy. And I think it's just a different edge to these players where you have someone like Gabe Vincent, who I have to work for everything that I have right now. Same thing with Caleb Martin. I have to work for everything. It's a J. Cole phone call away. Jimmy Butler, that's been his entire life, right? Duncan Robinson, outside looking in. Kyle Lowry, thinking that he's on his last leg. I think all these guys just have that edge on their side, where it's like they've been so disrespected they want to prove somebody wrong. Where Denver's, actually it's funny because both these teams like to play the underdog story. I think Miami's underdog story is a little bit more compelling than Denver's, where it's like we're not talked enough about. How come we're very talented? We can do this. We can do that. We should be talked about. well, show us. Miami's like, yo, we are legit from the gutter. We're gonna fight to show you who we are. And I think that edge is, if they do win the series, that's the edge we're gonna come to, saying this team was just more hungry than what Denver is right now.
Yeah, and on that point, man, I want to get to Mike Malone's post-game comments, because that's also been a hot topic after this game. So to everybody in the chat, first and foremost, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA report live and direct, man. CP the franchise, Alex Ratarz, the legend, Chuck D. We are breaking down Heat versus Nuggets game 2. We're going to talk about also Kyrie Irving wants LeBron James in Dallas, man. We're going to talk about that. That has broken the news wire. But for those of you watching on KnicksFanTV, hop over to the NBA report. And if you want to call in with your comments on the game, call us up. 657-383-1509 is the number to call. Okay, now to Mike Malone's comments. Because Chuck, as you said, man, he was hot. He was hot and bothered in this game, man. Here's what he had to say about his team's effort with the media. Here's Mike Malone.
And tonight, that the starting lineup to start the game is 10-2 Miami. Start the third quarter, they scored 11 points in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And we just got, we had guys out there that were just, whether feeling sorry for themselves for not making shots or thinking they can just turn it on or off. This is not the preseason. It's not the regular season. It's not round. This is the NBA Finals. And that to me is really, really perplexing, disappointing. And I asked the team, I asked our players, you guys tell me why we lost. And they knew the answer. Miami came in here and outworked us. And we were by far our least disciplined game of these 16 or 17 playoff games, whatever it is now. So many breakdowns. And they exploited every one of those breakdowns and scored. So if we're going to try to go down there and regain control of this series and get home court advantage back, we're going to have to outwork Miami, which we didn't do tonight, and our discipline's going to have to be off the charts.
All right, that was Mike Malone ripping into his team. He wants the respect for his team, but you can't get the respect when you're having these type of letdowns, man. And I thought that the first quarter intensity was lacking. I thought they were soft. KCP, man, with some boneheaded plays. I mean, fouling three-point shooters not once but twice. We've seen many teams now, not just the Nuggets, but many teams lose their connectivity on those Heat pick and rolls, because sometimes they're running pick and rolls and sometimes they're shedding the screen and you leaving wide open shooters. Two guys on the ball with the shooter wide open. So I thought Miami's offense did a great job of just making the Nuggets think, and you have to be connected for 48 minutes against this Miami Heat offense, because they have way too many three-point shooters. They know that to beat this Denver team, they're going to have to score the ball from three. And so the Nuggets just defensively, they just were not there. And Mike Malone, he didn't just say it on this post-game press conference. He said it while it was mic'd up in the game to his team. This is the NBA Finals. You got to come with it and be hungry. So I thought they were feeling themselves a little too much after game one. They're talking to Shaq and Charles, and they're chummying it up. And what's Spoelstra do? He never gets too high, never gets too low. He knows they know what they need to do. They're going to make their adjustments, and you're going to have to expect a more resilient and gritty Miami Heat team. And for Denver, like I said, defensively was the main issue. They just weren't there. They weren't connected. And offensively, where they make their bread and butter is through their off-ball movement. And I thought it was a lot of ball watching, a lot of lazy plays on the offensive side, not really trying to work through that zone diligently. And they got caught lacking, man. Miami took this game. Absolutely took it, man.
Yeah, and especially after the game, Miami doesn't play, man. It's like they're not going to have Duncan Robinson or Strus or, anybody else go to the post game to talk with Barkley and Grant Hill and them. They sent the person who already got a ring, Kyle Lowry. You know what I'm saying? Jimmy could talk. They just like, they like, listen, they could talk. Damn near Alonzo Mourning almost was going to talk. And said they're keeping them locked in. Malone was screaming at the team after game one. And he feels as he can't let off of the gas anyway. So Once again, it's the clash of cultures. And I'm telling you this, other than Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry, ain't none of them got any rings. So we're not talking about a Denver Nugget, that a team that won 67 games and one of the great teams of all time. We're talking about a team that could go to the finals and go home just like Miami could go home. Both of these teams could go home. Nobody's coming in one of the greatest teams of all time. This has been probably the worst season I've ever seen as far as analysts picking teams to win and predictions. It's been the most, they and the refs have ranked in one of the worst seasons ever in NBA history. The players have been what they do. So with that in mind, it's one of these things we watch, we see how it plays out. And I think whatever happens, if the Heat wins this changes the culture of the branding of the NBA. And this puts a situation in Adam Silver's lap of what you're trying to brand and market. This completely derailed it with a whole sense of damn near, Hank Iber basketball that derailed hero branding, superstar. That's going to win here. What happens to Adam Silver after, if let's say the Heat wins? So maybe that's a later discussion, but the NBA is at the crossroads in its first full season since the pandemic.
I agree with you, Chuck. If Miami wins this series, I think it's another complete shift. Thanks to Miami yet again, right? Because think about when you had the Heatles, it was, we need a big three. And I know the Celtics did it, but I'm saying my reference is that you need to wait for guys through free agency, right? You try to get all these guys in free agency. You try to create the cap space. You want to go get those guys. And then everyone after that is like, well, we need another big three like this. How do you get all these best players? Who's going to take a lesser role? And now they'll do it again where it's like, let's go back to the old way where it's team basketball. All right. Truly team basketball. You need one, maybe two guys that you can rely on, which would be Bam and Jimmy, and you get some high quality role players. And that's really how you build it. And I mean, with the salary cap changing starting next season, we might start to see that. We might start to see that sooner rather than later. And it'll be interesting how teams construct their teams moving forward if the Heat win.
Absolutely, man. Let's get to some calls. We got a couple calls on the line, man. Area code 732. What's your name? Where you tapping in from?
Wah.
Dan from New Jersey in the building. Dan, back on the NBA report for day 2. How you feeling, man?
Man, I feel great, man. First, I just want to give a shout out to Chuck D. Chuck, I love your work, man. I love Public Enemy. I'm a huge hip hop fan, man. I love making beats myself, so salute to you, bro.
Salute. I see you in the mosh pit.
Yeah. I'll be able to call in more often now because I finished taking my MCAT the other day. I'll get the score back in 4 weeks.
Nice.
So I felt pretty good taking it.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
you even sound better, man. Sound like you got the stress off you. All that studying was taking a toll on you, man. You sound better, man.
It was, man.
Yeah.
My mom was telling me, like, yo, like, look at you, like, your eyes was all red, like, now you finally shaved. It's crazy.
Grinding. It's all good.
Yeah, man. But I watched the game yesterday, man, and it was a really interesting game because, like, the whole time I was talking to my stepdad. I was like, yo, there's no way that he win in this series. The only way that I see them even getting 2 games is if they shoot the lights out. And you know what? Last night they shot the lights out, but Eric Spoelstra's adjustments also made it so that they could be in the best position to win, like, especially with, like, the offense like getting, like, so much efficiency. They got a great performance out of Duncan Robinson. Jimmy made some great plays at the end, and Jokic came up with 40 points, but like Jeff Van Gundy said, only 4 assists. But I don't know if you guys talked about Spoelstra's comments. Like,
we're gonna get to that.
Denied the whole thing. Yeah, man. Like, Spoelstra completely denied it. He shot down the reporter that asked the question, what I thought was a valid question. They asked him if he wanted to make Jokic a passer, and he said, no, not even close. But everything I was seeing was telling me that that's what he was trying to do. So what do y'all think he was actually trying to get at? But yeah, that's actually all I got to say.
Appreciate the call, Dan, and keep it going, man. We'll definitely chop it up. Appreciate the support.
Sure.
Okay. It's my guy, Dan from New Jersey. And speaking of which, great segue there by Dan. as our callers usually do. They usually do a good job of that. Let's hear the Spoelstra comment, because this was also one that's been garnering a lot of interest around the social scene. The question was by Ramona Shelburne of ESPN, and here was her question and Spoelstra's answer. Here it is.
Final question on the left.
Hey, Coach. Ramona Shelburne, ESPN. This is probably oversimplifying things, but sometimes when teams play against Jokic, you turn him into a scorer, you turn him into a passer, and he controls the game. He only had 4 assists tonight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's just, that's the untrained eye that says something like that. This guy's an incredible player. Twice in 2 seasons, he's been the best player on this planet. You can't just say, oh, make him a scorer. That's not how they play. They have so many different actions that just get you compromised. We have to focus on what we do. We try to do things the hard way, and he requires you to do many things the hard way. He has our full respect. Okay, thank you.
And that, to me, that last sentence by Spoelstra, to me, is what he was trying to get at. I think he shirked at the notion that, well, they just want to turn him into a scorer, because I felt like he's feeling like that really diminishes the impact of a Jokic and what he brings to the game. I mean, the guy still dropped 41 and 10 on my team. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not act like it didn't mean anything, because that fourth quarter, that 18-point fourth quarter where he was just slicing and dicing them, look no further than that. And at the end of the day, if the Nuggets clean up their act defensively in the fourth quarter, we're not even talking about this. We're talking about, we're going back to that third quarter as a big reason why the Nuggets won that game. So it's just so funny. I hear, I had a great chance to work with Antonio Daniels on SiriusXM NBA Radio, and he says that all the time. It's just funny how the narrative changes from game to game based on certain things. And so I just think Spoelstra, he was trying not to disrespect Jokic and the Nuggets. But at the same time, if we pull it back and take a look at this is Jokic's 3rd over 40-point game in the playoffs, their 3rd loss in which he scores over 40 points in the playoffs. And if you look at how the game was going last night, I just felt like, and Al, we talked about this. It's a fine balance with the stars in terms of whether it's Butler or Jokic to trust their teammates and to be the aggressors themselves and put it on themselves to get the buckets. To me, I saw a Denver team that wasn't moving around. They weren't aggressive offensively. They weren't cutting. And Jokic, they weren't doubling Jokic as much. And so, to me, he took what the defense was giving him, saw that my guys don't have it tonight. We got to put the ball in the hole, and he did what he had to do.
Spoelstra's crafty. Listen, there's an NBA requirement that everybody has to talk to the media, but there's not a requirement that you have to divulge your strategy. That's what Spoelstra knows. So, and this is why these 2 coaches are 2 of the best in the game, because when they go to the media, they know what to say and what not to say. I bet you, like I said, when Kyle Lowry talked at the end of the last game, in the interviews, not the pressers, but immediately after the game to NBA TV, because it's like, you got to talk to the media, it's required, but to divulge the strategy, that ain't never going to happen now, Spoelstra.
For sure, and to even add on to that, Chuck, it's that I think he's upset that it's oversimplified, that answer, right?
Yeah,
Where
right.
It's like, oh, well, if you just stop Jokic from passing in general, you're going to win. It's not that easy. It's the fact that Miami made it difficult for the role players to cut, to get open looks, which translates from Jokic passing the ball. So it's not necessarily, oh, you just stop Jokic in general, it's not going to be success. Yeah, Jokic didn't pass, and he had to be the primary guy. But the reason he couldn't pass is because the CP noted, well, these guys weren't being aggressive. And when you look at Miami's defense, they're fighting over everything. They're fighting over the screens. They're in front of you. They're covering the 3-point line. They're not giving you an inch of space. So, yeah, Jokic can't pass to those guys. So if you want to make it simple saying, well, if Jokic doesn't pass, sure, but it just sounds too simplistic for saying, hey, well, Miami's going to force Jokic not to be the facilitator because they're going to stop and stay home with the role players rather than just collapse on Jokic and then make it easy for him to be like, oh, double team, easy, KCP at the top of the key. We're not going to see that because that's what Miami wants to do. So I think Spoelstra's just angry where it's like, stop making it so simple, where it's like, next thing you know, you're going to get this 500-word article. Stop Jokic from passing the ball. Everyone wins. Miami.
I know this for sure. CP called this earlier in the Knicks Heat series. It's like, this is not the team to throw cross-court passes or pass inside the lane. Miami is not the team to just throw passes through their defense. You will get those passes deflected, picked off more often than not. So, Joker's going to try to throw the right pass, but he can't throw the right pass if he don't see nothing.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it. So, and that was just interesting. And the funny thing is that we heard from prominent coaches in regards to this game about making Jokic a passer. Jeff Van Gundy, within the first 5 minutes of the game, said Jokic has got to establish himself as a scorer. He's got to establish himself as a scorer because his guys don't have it. And then here was Steve Kerr last night, courtesy of the Draymond Green show. The Steve Kerr and Draymond Green reacted to the game. And this is what Kerr had to say in terms of Miami's adjustments between game 1 and game 2. This courtesy of the Draymond Green show. Here you go.
So they're a great team, but I do think what Miami did tonight, they said, all right, we're going to make Jokic a scorer. Let's take away other people. And then the big one I thought was, you mentioned them starting Love. That allowed Jimmy Butler to guard Murray. Mm-hmm. So they're a great.
So that was Steve Kerr, the multiple-time champion, saying, hey, turn him into a scorer. But I think the bottom line is it's not cut and dry. It's not as simple as that. However, there are benefits to doing so. If you're taking Jamal Murray out of the game by putting Jimmy Butler on him, by blitzing him on the pick and roll, making him uncomfortable and diminishing his offense, then I think that has a trickle-down effect. And so if you're not able to get your guys who are cutting, if you're not able to get good motion and good flow in your offense, it makes them easier to guard. So Miami certainly had the leg up there.
And let me tell you this much, man. Jimmy Butler, whose ego is riding high with him being whatever he wants to be on that particular day, it's almost like, and I'm making a slight comparison to MJ. Did we fear as Knicks MJ on the offense? We feared him as much on the defensive because MJ just had this thing in him like, I will stop you. You are not going to get past me, or you're not going to get past Pip or Rodman or whoever. You're not going to get past me. Jimmy Butler took it on. It says, I'm going to stop. I'm a mano Murray.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this kid beat me. And that's where that concentration was as the rest of the others did their thing with a little bit of Jimmy on the O.
True indeed, man. Look, you're not going to stop Jokic. You can barely even slow him down. But if you can limit what the other guys are doing, limit their effectiveness, I thought that was a good strategy by the Heat. We'll see how the Nuggets adjust there. But once again, the Miami Heat, offensively, defensively, this was the game that they needed to play to win. They outscored the Nuggets by 28 points from 3. That's the type of game that you're going to need if, Jimmy Butler, 21 points. He had a great game, outstanding game. 21 points, 9 assists. You got 21 from Bam. You got mixed contributions throughout the team. So they needed to play that almost a perfect game. They were able to force a ton of turnovers, uncharacteristic of the Nuggets. Nuggets, 14 turnovers, which led to 19 Miami points. And so I thought the Heat just did a good job of just winning individual statistical categories to help them win this game. And free throws, big difference at the free throw line. Just 2 attempts in game 1. I never even seen that in my life. Then they bounced back with 20 in game 2. Look, a lot of people weren't happy with the Zebras last night. I thought they were pretty terrible, but I don't.
There's a lot of questionable calls.
There was a lot of questionable calls, but
can I bring up a small bait and switch? At least if I wanted to pick at Spo's gambling brain at one particular time. You remember this play towards the limit? I think it was the 6-minute mark where Joker's in a block and Gabe Vincent's on him. and he's basically on his back. And I've never seen a play where the player basically they booty pushed, Vincent right damn near out of bounds, man, on the. And I think that was Spoelstra saying, okay, the most he's going to get out of this is 2. We might even get another foul on Joker. Well, let's try this for a few seconds. That's to the detail I think that Spoelstra and the Heat's mind is at when sometimes the other team might go to sleep for a second. Those small increments of second awake versus sleep mean a lot in the income and the outcome, I should say.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just go back to what Kerr said, right? And he said, why I mentioned it's like you stay home on your players. Look, KCP, like he's been shooting 40% this playoff from 3. Do you want him to go fire from downtown because he opens up everything else for Murray, for Jokic? So he went 1 for 3 last night, 1 for 4 from the field in total. It's just, I think this whole thing on just like sticking with like the Joker on just like how you stop him from passing. He only won by 3 points. Let's not make this thing like it's greater than it is.
Right.
So,
right.
It's crazy that we're gonna run with 3 points. It's not like if it was like 10, 15 points, then it's like, oh well, this is different.
Right. It's not like they're losing I mean, they had a 15-point lead at one point in this game. They had an 8-point lead going into the fourth quarter. If they just tighten up defensively, we're not even talking about this. So again, just very, very interesting, man. Let's.
They also went down by double digits in the fourth too. And so the swings in these games are like this and that.
Yeah.
So as much as somebody got a superiority on somebody else, you slip and sleep for a 2 minutes stretch. Truly.
Oh, it's a wrap, man. Let's go to the phones, man. Area code 917. What's your name? Where you calling in from?
Gentlemen.
There he is.
Fantastic work as always. I'm blessed and honored to actually make it through on an afternoon.
We got Tom from Huntington on the matinee edition of the NBA Report, History in the Making.
Exactly. I'm feeling it. I know you guys are feeling it too.
Let's go.
The chat's feeling it. We're all feeling it.
Let's go.
And number one, listen, DP, if you already know where you stand in my life, Alex, come on, keep doing the great work you're doing. But I really want to say a big shout out and salute to the legend, Chuck D. I could talk for days, but I'm rapid fire, and I take rapid fire seriously, Chuck. So I'm going to have to keep it quick, short. Shout out to Manscaped. Shout out to, was it Oakley now?
Oakley.
I can't even keep up with all the sponsorships. It's crazy.
Yes.
But I'm just a fan, so you know me.
Absolutely.
The one thing that's driving me crazy in this series so far is when Van Gundy and Mark Jackson are praising Bam for his amazing screens. I'm like, come on, if it was 1997, I mean, come on, that's not an amazing screen. He's throwing knees, elbows. Anyway, I love that stuff, but not anymore. You got to let it go. Anyway, you guys, real quick question before I let you go, because you know what I do. Any way we could possibly, maybe a little bag for like Strus. I love the 3-point shooting. He plays good defense. I mean, I don't know if he's a difference maker like that, but sometimes let's stock up that bench, man.
Hey,
get like maybe a Strus. I don't know about Vincent, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Listen, these guys are going to get paid, man. Appreciate the call, Tom. These guys are going to get paid. Max Strus and Gabe Vincent are going to get paid. And then it's going to be interesting to see how they pay both these guys and then have Caleb Martin to have to pay after next season because he's got a player option after next season. So with that new salary cap looming, or new CBA looming, going to be very interesting to see how Miami's able to keep all these guys because they just paid Hero. Butler's making his money. Bam is going to be making his money. Remember, everybody can't come under this new CBA. Everybody cannot come to the party. So Vincent and Strus, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle that. Vincent he's 6'5", man. 6'5", lightning from 3. The 44% from 3 in his last 10 games. I mean, he's going to get a bag for the Knicks. And Tom from Huntington was asking in regards to the Knicks and free agency. The Knicks will have that $12 million mid-level exemption now. But some people think Max Strus might get more than that.
He's playing like it right now. And even Gabe Vincent's playing more like it. So is Caleb Martin for his future, man.
Right.
So these guys, I would love any one of these guys on the Knicks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just gritty.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see from players who just understand their role, gritty, not afraid of the moment. Gabe Vincent, man. Gabe Vincent, 8 for 12 from the field yesterday. 4 for 6 from
he was
three,
nice.
23
he played
points.
very well, man.
Where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
Honestly, if the Miami Heat win this thing, teams got to start looking at their scouting departments.
I think that's going to happen. I think that's going to happen.
Because if you have 7 to 8 guys undrafted who are making these type of contributions in big moments, that's something we got to talk about, because everyone's getting these jobs scouting. We talk about these prospects all the time, right? More and more talent. We found 7 to 8 guys who are helping you right now from the A seed in the NBA Finals.
And
that's major.
And a refusal to tank at all.
No tanking whatsoever. That's right, Chuck.
And
no tanking for Miami.
And how about this, man? Heat point differential through 20 playoff games. This is through John Schumann. He writes for NBA.com, stats and analytics guy for NBA.com. Great guy. I had a chance to work with him on Ian Begley's show. Heat point differential through 20 games. In first quarter, they're -1. Second quarter, they're -11. Third quarter, they're -12. In the fourth quarter, they are +90. +90 in the fourth quarter. If that doesn't tell you about resolve, grit, grind, and never say die. +90 point differential in the fourth quarter. Insane. Absolutely insane. And as a Knicks fan, it pains me to give this team so much credit. But as we say in this show, Chuck, we got to give credit where it's due. And right now, the Miami Heat, they listen, man. They every series, they give you reason to give them more and more respect. And so,
listen, I feel I was the bad luck piece, man. I went down to check out the Heat the day I did Drink Champs, man, and it was the beginning of the end.
That was it.
We had already beat Miami twice, and I'm going down there, and it's like we got washed, man. And
washed.
So, hey,
washed, man.
It has not stopped since.
Yeah. Who do you think? Who do you guys think has more pressure going into Game 3? Going to Miami, Denver. Game 3 on Wednesday. Who's the pressure on that?
Denver.
There's always more pressure on the Heat.
Oh, all right. All right, Chuck, go ahead. For you, from the Heat perspective, let's hear it.
They're coming home. All those Miami Heat fans are super happy. And all of a sudden, the undrafted others might feel a little moxie with them, where now the Nuggets are up against the wall, who've been crying all year about being that team. I still think Miami still might win, but I feel the pressure's on Miami. And I think that the difference is that there's enough of that. I hate to use that word again, because I like to keep culture to culture.
Yeah. Right.
But the Heat culture is just going to just be relentless in pushing these guys. And it's more than Spoelstra. It's everything that's going to remind a Strus, a Vincent, a Martin, that, yo, man, you hungry, your belly not full. Remember that. You got to get it. Where I don't think it's the same in Denver. I think it's mile high mile, and we're going to take a weed break if we don't win. It's just that the whole city and state is just like, okay, oh well.
Happy to be there. Just happy to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think there's enough of that. It's just a lot in South Florida with that. And you know what? I call it the Wizard of Rileyhood. Take him out of it. I don't know what that thing would be down there. But he's still there sitting like Al Pacino in the back.
Yeah.
It has something to do with it. But the pressure is going to be on the Heat. And I just think they'll persevere. But that pressure is on the Heat because they got a lot to live up to beside Game 3. It's just that it's a lot. It's a lot for them right now. They're smelling a little bit.
Al, you say the Nuggets. How come?
I say that because I think I like Chuck's answer, by the way, for Miami. I like that perspective. But the word the topic I'm gonna use from Chuck is crying about it. You got to show up if you're going to keep crying about it. Because if you don't bounce back, if you don't play at the high level that we've seen throughout the regular season, then I just don't believe you're that team. Then all this crying, you just want to be recognized for something, and you're not really all about it. If you're all about it, you come back, you punch Miami in the mouth, you come out, win this game, and you show why. You say, we have the talent, we have the size advantage, we have 2 top players that we can rely on. We're talking about Miami's role players buying in. Our guys can buy in too. I think if you're going to do that much, complaining, saying that we don't get the recognition for how talented we are and where we are right now, and you can even go back to the coverage of LeBron James fake saying that he may retire just because he doesn't want to be talked about being swept, and how that got more coverage than the Nuggets just sweeping the Lakers, and you're angry about that. Well, come back and show us why you believe you should be talked about so greatly, because good teams will be able to do that. They'll be able to fight. They'll be able to show what they have in the tank. And Miami's showing you. Can Denver do it? That's the question.
I'm going with Denver, man. I'm going with Denver. Because, again, all this talk, especially in this series, was that Denver's just a class above. They've got the talent. They've got the Joker. The back-to-back MVP should have been third. We've talked about Joker's brilliance. Then it's Coach Malone. We need respect. Nobody's talking about us. It's always about the Lakers. I mean, you had Bill Simmons saying that this Nuggets team was the best team since the 2017-2018 Warriors that swept the Cavs in the finals.
He's crazy. He's crazy. He's out of his mind.
Yeah, that sounded like just hot take city. But you which is what these guys do best. But you gotta earn that. And so This is why Mike Malone is pressing the panic button after game 2 in the huddle after the postgame. That postgame press conference was an intentional shot to his team. You guys better wake up, because this team in Miami, they are coming for blood. They want that championship. They are well coached. They are tough. They are gritty. Jimmy and Bam are leading them in the physicality and the toughness. They got shooters all over the court. You can't sleep. And so I think the pressure's on Denver now, because they've been out to prove to the league since they got to the playoffs as number 1 seed. They've been out to prove to the league that they're not the same old Nuggets. Right? This is not the same old bridesmaid year after year after year that comes up soft, doesn't have the mental toughness to get through the endurance test that is the NBA playoffs. They want to show that. So I think the pressure's on them.
I'll remove the Heat and the Nuggets, and I'll say all that pressure's on Mr. New York Mike Malone.
Well, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And he knows.
I'm glad that you said that, Chuck. I'm glad that you said that, because I was thinking that not necessarily those words, but you think about how you watch that Miami Heat team, everyone from the players to the coach connected. They don't waver. They're focused, disciplined.
Yeah.
Nothing. They don't crack under pressure. Mike Malone, we'll see how connected this team is. He just aired them out.
This is adversity for them. This is the first time.
It's adversity. How does his team respond now? Because you have to know the pulse of the locker room, what to say, what buttons to push in order to get these guys motivated. If Denver responds, then we see that we got an even match here, because we know how Spoelstra can get his guys connected. If Malone can do this, we got some top tier coaching. If they fold under this, look, I know we saw a lot of coaches get fired this season, and he's been there for a long time, but Denver may have to start considering, is this the guy? They probably won't do anything this year, just made it to the finals, but is this the guy that will take us there if he's starting to lose the connection during the finals?
Well, hey, listen, I'll put it to you this way. Listen, this is the team the Knicks beat twice with Randall diving for a loose ball.
Right.
I'll leave it at that. Julius Randle dives and beats them by diving for a loose ball. Your team has to not be fully awake.
I mean, E. Gibson in the chat says, Nuggets haven't been here before. I still question their defense. Miami can handle the pressure and have the experience. It's new territory for the Nuggets, man. So, going to be very interesting to see how they emerge and how they handle. You have to figure game 3, Heat coming in there with their home crowd behind them. They're going to try to, again, start fire away from 3. Try to put some more pressure on these guys. Going to be very interesting to see how Denver weathers that storm. 9-0 up to this point. They hadn't lost since March back at home, man.
The great Isaiah Thomas, NBA champion twice, NCAA champion Hall of Famer, said this almost 40 years ago. At this stage, it's not a matter of skills, it's a battle of wills.
Endurance test, man. Endurance test. Absolutely. Well said there. Well said, Chuck. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Another live edition of the NBA Report, man. It's CP the franchise here. Alex Sotaros, the legend Chuck D is with us. And we were talking about Game 2 of the NBA Finals, in which the Miami Heat have seized and taken this, tied the series 1-1 as they head back to South Beach. Now, in other news, this one just broke before we came on the air, and I didn't know if to be, I didn't know whether to laugh or what. According to multiple reports, this is from Chris Haynes, Shams, everybody, all the insiders. Kyrie Irving wants the Dallas Mavericks to trade for LeBron James. The reunion that everybody sees coming, but they don't know how it's going to come about because it's very difficult, right? Kyrie Irving going into free agency. Lakers can't afford him outright. Would the Lakers would there be a sign and trade to send him over to LA? What would the Lakers part with that? It's a lot of moving parts, but now we're saying that Kyrie wants to move LeBron to Dallas to form the big three of LeBron, Luka, and Kyrie Irving, man. Al, what was your take when you read this, man?
Looks like Kyrie should have just stayed in Cleveland, man.
After all that, right? You should have just stayed in Cleveland, man.
After everything, wanted to be his own leader, wanted to lead a team, thought he could do it with KD, all to go right back to LeBron James. Should have just stayed in Cleveland. I don't know how this trade gets done, just because we would have to see what Kyrie gets paid this offseason, because he can get, I believe he can get the Supermax, right? He can get the Supermax this offseason. He can get I think Kyrie's eligible for a 5-year, $272 million contract. How they're able to squeeze that, Luka and LeBron on one team with the new CBA will be very interesting. But if you want to do like a mock trade right now, something that I put together is Maxi Kleber, Josh Green. They're going to want a young player for you. And then Christian Wood. That's one way. Or you could add, who is the other one that I had? Where is it? Where's the other play that I had? Or I'm sorry, Davis Bertans, if you didn't want to use Christian Wood. That makes the money work. What picks you get from Dallas with the 6 that they got left, I don't know.
Well,
because they got the 2023, 2025, 26, 27, 28 first rounders.
There's just no way, man. And according to Chris Haynes, right? Remember that the new CBA is coming. It's going to make it harder to have 3 max players on their contract because of the hard cap. So, according to Chris Haynes, in order for Irving and James to partner with Luka, the two would have to take a sizable pay cut. He says the easiest and unlikeliest path to adding James this offseason for him to orchestrate a buyout with the Lakers. Another thing I couldn't see happening. I just don't think LeBron would just completely torch that bridge. He usually just does it after contracts are over with, then he'll go back to Cleveland and win another championship with Bronny and Bryce and the whole family. But, I don't see him going to Pelinka and Jeannie Buss saying, get me out of here, get me out of this contract, and then going to take way less money to go play with Cuban and Kyrie and Luka Doncic. I don't see him taking a pay cut. I don't see anybody taking a roll cut. Who of those 3 players, it's almost like that start bench cut meme that you see coming around always on the internet.
Yeah, right.
Who of those 3 players would sacrifice their game for the betterment of the team? We don't know if Luka Doncic can play off ball. Can he play off of a ball dominant LeBron James?
Can we be real for a second? Lakers were not too far. It's not like the Lakers were completely outmatched by the Nuggets. They were close. They were very close to making this thing, to making a finals appearance.
Yeah.
And why would for LeBron leave Anthony Davis for Kyrie Irving? You know what I mean? Like when Anthony Davis is healthy, we're talking about a top 10 player in the league, right? You're going to tell me
I think there's high risk with both players.
It's high risk, but I'm going to take my chances with AD more so than I'm going to take it with Kyrie.
I hear you. I hear you, man.
And then you're going to tell me that AD playing center, you're going to change it for who? Powell? That's who you want playing your center to be?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I have no idea.
Just think about it. LeBron at this age, he plays more point guard than he does like as a big. You know what I mean? So you're going to have him, Luka, and Kyrie all on the perimeter, and then you're going to say, all right, Powell, you got this. Christian Wood, you got this.
It sounds like a bad idea, but I think this could be more Kyrie speaking to Cuban, saying, hey, listen, I want to play with this guy. Make it happen one way or the next. I think it's a little chess match there. They just showed Kyrie getting picked up in L.A. by Phil Handy, longtime assistant coach around the league and current assistant coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Kyrie was there in the front row when the Lakers were losing to the Nuggets in Game 4. I think it's a little mental. It's a little mental mind game going on here.
Is this Kyrie's way of saying, like if you're saying it's his negotiation, is this some way like saying, oh, this is my final offer or I'm out type of deal where it's like, if you can't get LeBron to Dallas, you know, I'm out of here. Is that it?
I'm out of here, man. I would have to see what would the Lakers even have to offer. Like, is it just it's probably just a mid-level. If he were to opt out and become a free agent and he went to LA, I mean, what are you talking about? Like a $12 million bag? What we would have to look that up.
I don't even know the money,
the
entire money aspect for the Lakers. It's just, I would just find it funny that the Lakers would trade with a conference opponent. And like, if you're LeBron, why would you even consider that?
Right.
Cuban was the guy who just said, hey, I will I'll stay out of the play-in to go get a lottery pick.
Right.
Like, that's not what LeBron's here for. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be some sort of reassurance that no matter what happens, we're going to stay competitive year in and year out. Sure, you got the connections with Jay Kidd, you know, because he was there on the Lakers bench for a little bit, but I don't even think that's enough to take him over to Dallas. It'd be a weird trade. I don't even know what that type of trade would look like, in all honesty. What do you trade for a star that, you know, just injured his foot?
Right.
Didn't necessarily have even though he still performed well, didn't have that same burst that we've seen in previous years. Like, what type of trade package is that? Like, how many draft picks do you ask for someone like LeBron James, who I don't know how many years he has left in the league?
Yeah, it's just as the world turns with Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, man. They can't even let the Miami Heat just have their shine for Game 2, right? It's always something. It's always something, man. Even the most unlikely scenario they want to throw out there to the media. Unreal.
I have to reserve my comments because stuff gets back and people get their vertebrae. Oh, I grew up with you. My dad grew up with you and all that. So I leave it alone. But it sounds like some, housewives of Orange County, Atlanta stuff. Flavor of Love. It's just a mess. I'm glad. I'm so happy I'm a Knicks fan, man. And why would and none against when I talk sometimes, I say this is me as a sports fan. I love all my Dallas fans, but LeBron ain't living in Dallas, Texas half the year. It ain't happening. How about that? He ain't going to Dallas, Texas to live half his year.
Right.
It's not happening.
Yeah,
no.
I don't think so, man.
Because at that age and stage, man, it's more about where you're going to be living.
Yeah, and also, isn't Bronny's going to which? Is he going to
USC? He's going to USC.
Yeah, he's going to USC. So
he's
staying in California, man.
He's staying in California. You'll wait for Bronny to be one and done. But at the same time, he'll be able to get out of his contract then they hope Bronny gets drafted in the first round, which many think he will, and then LeBron will see from there. Who's got room to make history? We're trying to be like the Griffies out here. Let's go.
And now playing for the Seattle Sonics, LeBron James,
Las Vegas,
LeBron James Jr.
Yeah.
That's the talk. The Las Vegas team is looking at it being a reality from wherever it comes from, or if it's expansion, and that might be a reality. It's close to California. It's like it's whatever franchise that's going to be there. It's they're finally realizing that Las Vegas is a formidable city for NBA basketball, because you've seen the Raiders go over there. The Oakland A's are going to get up out of Oaktown and go there.
Yeah,
they're building stadiums they're putting them up like that. So this is a possibility, as opposed to nobody ain't going to Dallas.
Great.
Kyrie is there in Dallas trying to figure out how can he stay in Dallas? Come on, my friends, come move with me. I need company. That's what that is.
A great segue there, because Adam Silver did meet with the NBA TV crew to talk about potential expansion. As we talk about Seattle, we talk about Las Vegas. Here was what Adam Silver had to say on the possibility of getting there. Here's what he had to say.
Adam, last question. They want us to go, but I need this question answered. With everything going so well, do you see in the near future more expansion teams? Like you hear Seattle, you hear Las Vegas. Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility, and I think what we've said in the last few years, number one, we wanted to get our collective bargaining agreement done, so we've done that now. And the other thing, we wanted to understand what our new media rights packages are. And, as Matt said, those negotiations will begin, in earnest probably in this next spring. Once that's done, we'll turn to expansion. We don't have anything specific in mind right now, but I think it makes sense over time. If you're a successful organization to continue to grow, there's no doubt there's a lot of great cities who are interested in having the NBA.
All right, that was the commissioner on the potential for expansion. I think something that a lot of people expect to happen. It's only a matter of when. Maybe they coordinate it in time for LeBron's farewell tour. Then he segues into owning the new Las Vegas team that, drafts Bronny James. The billion-dollar athlete buys his first team, and he stays as the face of the NBA, because they're going to be struggling to find his replacement at this point, right? So you put him in, you put him up as an owner, and you have him parade around kind of like, Ballmer does, or, the new Steinbrenner. It's LeBron James. He's the guy. But I think it'll work, and I think Las Vegas and Seattle will be the most likely candidates. You're seeing, obviously, with the Raiders moving to Las Vegas, the Oakland A's trying to get there, although they're experiencing some hurdles. And now basketball team, once upon a time, Las Vegas was looked at negatively in terms of fielding a sports team, because they didn't want players intertwined with those vices and gambling and all of that. But now, the gambling, it's right in our living rooms, right in our laps. So it's becoming more and more accepted. And then Seattle, obviously, they've needed the Sonics back there for quite some time. So many great ballers coming out of there and coming into the league right now. So many from the Seattle area that city needs a team back. So I think it's only a matter of time. And then we'll see, obviously, if you put those teams out west, then somebody, maybe a Memphis, maybe a New Orleans, moves to the east, which would be pretty interesting as well, man. Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, number one, I always thought that Brooklyn should move to Seattle. They'll have a real fan. For real, man. They'll have a real fan base. And that's not me capping on it, but like Seattle, man, one of great markets for music, great markets for sports, and a fantastic market for basketball. Big business swung it to somehow leave Seattle, where so many players come from there or whatever. I always thought, hey, man, Brooklyn, just pack up, go to Seattle, and let another Brooklyn franchise come in brand new. If you think the game is sloppy now, put on two more expansion teams. I think Adam Silver has to figure out how to re-regulate the three-pointer, because the regular season we've been witness to. These are the best of the best teams that sometimes we say, damn, that was a bonehead play. The worst of the worst teams, when they play and it becomes a 3-point volley game, it's like some of the worst ball that you ever can see. And this is why the WNBA looks so good sometimes, although, people might not get acclimated to the women playing, but the style of basketball is a beautiful style to watch when it's at its best. And you add expansion teams, you add more players to the mix, and you still got to kind of like figure out how the game is at its best. And, when you add expansion teams, you're going to have terrible teams for a long time. And then when you add in teams that are tanking, you add in a lot of these aspects that it's going to make somebody look at it expensive. Oh, okay, they can have CBA come in. But in New Orleans, if that ticket price is too high, you ain't getting those fans up in the, what they call it, Smoothie King Arena or whatnot.
Yeah.
It ain't happening, man. So the league got to figure out, collective bargaining agreements mean that players will make more money or revenue splits and this and that, international play. But at the same time, tickets prices go up. You got to figure out also how to pick that game. I once upon a time called SiriusXM, and I said a radical change is like if everybody is just going, tray to tray, and it ain't 94 feet, maybe they should make the three-pointers count, just like those arcade games. Only after 9 minutes of play, and then the last 3 minutes, now the tray counts. Then you'll see inside game, you'll see the outside game work, and it'll be a balance. But it ain't for me to say. But if you have a game where it's predicated on win and die by the three, you're looking at some of the worst basketball of the century.
And it's funny that you say that, Chuck, because you watched yesterday's game, and Miami shot close to 49% from three, right? But when you watch all those threes that they're taking, it's good threes because someone's driving, they're kicking it out, and they're wide open. It's not, let me just come all the way down, 20 seconds left on the shot clock, put up a three. It's none of that. Like, they're working the ball around before they get to a good shot, unless they find it sooner. But I agree with that. And I also think that we would still have good talent because we just see that there's a lot of talent in the league right now. So I think if you could add 2 more teams, we'll still get some high-quality basketball. But I think to your point, yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how those teams are ran, and if you clean up the analytics portion and really just go back to like a more fluid game, right? Because everyone wants to take more threes, the more value of the three-pointer than a mid-range. So we'll see if that changes. But I think if you add a new team, it's definitely got to be Vegas and Seattle.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see like how they do it, because I think another team, CP, you said New Orleans, Memphis, Minnesota could be up there too, man.
Yeah, Minnesota.
Minnesota could be another team that you could move back to the East. Before we started the show, I started to like outline if we did get a Vegas and Seattle team, you get four divisions in each conference now, 4 teams for each division. And this is what I just jot down. You guys let me know what you think about it. West, I had Portland, Seattle, Sacramento, Golden State. I had Denver, Utah, OKC, Minnesota. That's another division. I had New Orleans, Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas, just because New Orleans and Houston's not too far from one another. And then I had the Lakers, Clippers, Phoenix, and Vegas as the other one. That would be the West.
That makes sense.
Just because of like distance, proximity of everything. For the East, we like this one because we get Toronto out of the division. So it'd be Boston, New York, Brooklyn, Philly. So we don't have to deal with all the versatility of those players. So they're finally out. We don't have to deal with those guys. I had this is where I had Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, Charlotte. This is where it started to get tricky because I'm like, where do you put Memphis? So what I decided to do, I had Indiana, Milwaukee, Chicago, and Memphis.
Makes sense.
And then Cleveland, Toronto, Washington, Detroit. That one's a little hodgepodgey, but that's why I had for like the new conferences with the divisions.
They make sense, Alex. Those are all the areas I'm familiar with driving. I've driven on every single road in the United States.
Yeah.
If you're leaving out of Indianapolis, you could get to Memphis in a few hours. So, I mean, it makes sense. At least it's not as crazy as when I was growing up, and I always tried to figure why the Dallas Cowboys are in the Eastern Division playing the Giants. I couldn't figure it out.
And Arizona, I mean, they had the Phoenix Cardinals in the East.
Exactly, because they started out in St. Louis.
No, that's right. That's right.
But still, St. Louis in the East.
Yeah.
So this makes sense. It's geographically correct, and it also what's undermined here, it also takes advantage of fan movements and rivalries. So not only do you get the home fans, but in a rivalry you get a shorter distance from the rival team to get up to the next city, and and that's also adds into the gate that these arenas need at that price. So it's not always your home team that got to bring in the teams and the suites and the season tickets, but also the added in especially when you're talking about small market teams. Memphis plays New Orleans. It's important sometimes if they're in a rivalry that somebody could get from New Orleans right up the river to Memphis, and they go back and forth, and that keeps a culture it brews a culture, I should say.
Good points, man. So yeah, I think Seattle and Las Vegas obviously make the most sense. Those have been the most talked about. You have, St. Louis. You have Mexico City. NBA doing a lot there. Mexico City in the offseason. Is Pittsburgh a potential? We'll see. But I think Seattle and Vegas make the most sense. And then especially with the NBA looking for additional ways to bring in the casual fan, different ways to attract more revenue. Obviously the in-season tournament, the play-in tournament, the addition of the new CBA restrictions. I think it'll try to bring that parity across the league. But as Chuck said, I still think you bring those expansion teams, you're going to be looking at some real lean years for some of those guys. And on the flip side, it gives more players an opportunity to achieve their dreams and get into the league, right? There's only, 450 players in the league right now. So you expand the rosters and you bring another 30 in there. That's 30 more guys that could live their dreams. So gonna be interesting to see, man. Gonna be interesting to see.
Well, in the future, if you want to really, really think outside the box, you might even see the league, the way that this is going and everything interactive through your gadgets, your phones, and you could be there but not there, whatever. You might even see traveling, baseless teams. Like it doesn't really have a home court. It just goes around, maybe a bubble squad or whatever.
The mercenaries.
Mercenaries sponsored by the big three, right? and they're a team that don't have a base, but just go around and just like bow. But you have to think outside the box, because what you have is new generations of new people seeing things that, maybe where I grew up from. I'm from the last century. I don't count. You know what I'm saying? I don't count. Man, thank you for having me on the show, because really what I think doesn't count. I can bring a little bit from the last century. I'm one of those guys that you could call OG, but I'm honest with it. You know what I'm saying? If I got gray in my beard, it stays there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the future of these things always have to be revised, because you got new human beings that you want to sweep into the game. So, expect the unexpected and be aware for some surprises. When I even said like a 3-pointer, I remember when the 3-pointer came in. I remember when the NBA brought it in. It's like, and the basketball logic at that particular time was outside in, but in case of emergency, 3-pointer, because we don't make a lot of those shots. So, you know what I'm saying? It's about a percentage game, but it's morphed into something else. But if you don't keep a gauge of it, it can morph into something that makes the game unrecognizable. So the inside game has to be helped out a little bit. The outside game needs to be figured out. And like I said, it's a weird idea, but you play 9 minutes of a quarter, then all of a sudden, the last 3 minutes, like those arcade games, you shoot at the arcade game,
yeah, right?
Boom, boom, boom. The last minute, it's like now it counts for 3 and stuff like. They might have to go to something like that, because if your game starts out, I'm saying it's not so much the winning teams with the tray, it's the losing teams with the tray. Like, I'm sorry, Houston Rockets basketball is completely unwatchable. It's completely unwatchable. And so, you want to be able to continue to grow new fans and stuff like that. You got to adapt to new ways, and change is good.
Yeah, true indeed, man.
I can only imagine. Chuck's suggestion just sounds like when I played morning basketball with these OGs, and they're like, no. Everything's a 1 point, right? We don't do threes. It's like, oh my God,
They
man.
don't
It's like you
threes,
really
man.
had to choose your
Wait,
shots.
they don't count the three for at least two? Because at least you could count them for two. It's like, why we go to run and shoot Atlanta? It's like, we playing, right? Boom, there's ones, but if I go outside the three and hit a tray, it's 2 points.
No,
They'll do that?
these guys were all, it was like all ones. They were like, no. We're not allowing any. Because these guys, I hate saying this, these guys were a little bit older. They didn't want to run around that much to the perimeter. They didn't want to chase out anybody. So like everything's a 1. So it's like there's no benefit of shooting the 3. That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh wow, Ernie Vanderway.
Yeah. But I think the cool thing about the expansion team too that needs to be discussed is that if you add 2 more teams, that could add more opportunities for 2 more G League teams, right? Because do we have all 30 yet? Or I think I don't know if it's still waiting on 1 more. But if we get 30 G League teams, that gives an opportunity for 2 other teams to have feeders, and then you're just creating another, round of talent to come through. So that'll be interesting.
I like to see the G League come up. I like to see more organization with it, more brand marketing. A lot of these guys, they make so many. When they cross market into the entertainment, they make so many bad moves. The game is strong. The league is strong in sports. And the minute these sports guys go into entertainment, this is why Worldwide West and all these guys came to the sports. They're trying to get the hell out of the entertainment business because they burned it down. That's the truth. So, when they actually come up with bridge marketing, I think they need to have a few more guys from the entertainment business to know the logic and the understanding on how to make a proper bridge without compromising the game. And so when you talk about the league, looking at the first 40 games of its star man on the rise, John Morant, being out of the league, they got to figure that one out. Because, when these games have been playing, you notice that every outro, they're trying to bring in like 808. I would say, the lack of saying any names, 808 based, trapeze. Right. And the reason why we never put slow 808 beats into something that's what the game is moving like this. But when you put an 808 in it and it's really like leaning, you pop up and down, it's not conducive to something like Fast and Furious. That's why, when you do a score in a movie, you don't put a slow beat behind a car chase. It doesn't sonically line up. So now you see, all right, we're going to go from NBA and you hear boom, boom. I was like, doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. The game is Fast and Furious, and now you slowed it down. And it's almost like, you slowed it down. Now we got a commercial full of syrup.
Oh, man.
You got to speed up. You got to get more cats with more up-tempo joints. And there's a lot of new cats that's dropping up-tempo joints, but they don't know. They just don't. And when they do know, it's like, it's a year and a half later, man. You missed the mark, The music is on to something else. And it's not just the demographics that happen to hit you in your part of the country or what your kids are listening to. It's a lot bigger than that. We don't need that.
We don't need that, man. Well said, Chuck. Great show. Al. Great show, Chuck, man. Had a great time breaking it all down. Recap Game 2. Kyrie, LeBron saga. They want to kick off the offseason already and get back into the news wire and NBA expansion, man. Let us know your thoughts. Leave us some comments in the comments section. Welcome once again to the NBA Reports. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share these videos. Also, remember that the show is available in audio podcast format, man. So no reason to miss it. Heat even the score. We'll see what happens after that, man. We'll check you guys on Thursday after Game 3, man. We'll have our Game 3 reactions and see where things go in this series. But we have ourselves a series. Can't say it's boring. But true, if you into the game, these have been 2 good ones, man. So see how things play out. Chuck, great show. Al, great show. And we'll see you guys later this week, man. Peace.
Peace.